Hello, it is Saturday, November 7th, 2015, and welcome to the Multifarious Man podcast. As always, I'm your host, Jay Vincent, and I'm actually coming to you not live, but I'm actually recording mobilely today. I've got a nice iRig microphone and my trusty iPhone, and I'm actually sitting in my car while waiting for my daughter, who today is having her first cheer showcase. She's on a competitive cheer team, like Bring It On, but not as catty. And in fact, all the young ladies that participate are actually very nice, and the parents are very cordial. So I'm sitting here waiting for the rest of the teams to perform. So again, welcome to the Multifarious Man podcast. Today's episode 8, is New York State of Mind. So on today's episode, I'm going to talk about the songs that remind me of my hometown, my home city, New York City, the city that never sleeps. And these songs, come in many different flavors. So it's songs that either have New York directly in the title, songs that have lyrics that speak of different boroughs or things within New York, or songs just, that just remind me of New York. It doesn't even have to have New York in the title. It could have been something from a film that was distinctly New York. But that's what we're going to be talking about today. So sit back, relax, and when we return, I'm going to talk about what I'm reading, watching, and listening to. Get you caught up to speed on a couple of books I'm actually reading simultaneously, along with a good show that's recently returned on television, and the music I'm listening to. Again, I am your host, Jay Vincent, and welcome to the Multifarious Man podcast. Numerous and varied, greatly diverse and manifold, all the things I want to say that never been told. Dina Sinatra to Drake and Pharrell. What I'm listening to this week, you can never tell. Bogey and Bacall, even Meryl Streep. The devil wears Prada, even the big sleep. It doesn't matter where you stand, I'm the multifarious man. All right, welcome back to the show. I am your host, Jay Vincent, and this is, again, the Multifarious Man podcast, episode 8, New York State of Mind. Now, what am I reading these days? I have a couple of books that I'm reading recently. One of them is part of a series that I've actually been reading for a while. The first is called Magic Slays, and it's actually book 5 in the Kate Daniel series. If you've listened to previous episodes, this is a book that's actually written by a husband and wife team that goes by the name of Ilona Andrews. That's not actually their name, but it's the name they go by, and it's a husband and wife team. And this book is called Magic Slays. In the latest Kate Daniels adventure, she's now struck out on her own. She has her own agency. Her best friend, Andrea, who's also a shapeshifter, has joined her at her agency. And in the last book, there were some major changes in her life that I won't spoil if you're just starting with the series. So I won't talk about what's previously happened, other than the fact that right now she's taken on her first solo case, and what's happening is someone has created some powerful magic, and the person that was created it is missing, was kidnapped. So she's been hired to not only find the person, but also find what was stolen. And of course, all the previous characters are returning, so far it's actually pretty interesting. I'm excited about this one. Now, at the same time, I'm also reading a book by John Sanford and C. Tyne, and it's actually a brand new book that's come out in the past month or so, and it's called Saturn Run. This book is sci-fi, takes place in the future, probably around, I believe, the year 2065, 2066. And in this future, the Chinese are actually preparing to launch a satellite, and a a whole mission to actually colonize Mars. And by chance, the United States discovers that something is moving towards Saturn at a high rate of speed, and it's not an asteroid or anything natural occurring, because it's actually decelerating. So what do? They need to find a way to not only get out there, but they need to beat the Chinese to it, because from their estimates, whoever can get there first is going to have technology that's at least 100 years ahead of anything that anyone has. So how do you get a secret mission to Saturn while at the same time your quote-unquote allies are also already ahead of you in terms of heading out to the stars? So it's an actually pretty interesting title. John Sanford, of course, is known for his Prey books, so Rules of Prey, Shadow Prey. I think he probably has about 20 different novels. So this is something distinctly different in the fact that it is science fiction. So I'm actually pretty excited about reading this one. So what I've been doing is actually switching back and forth, one chapter or two chapters at a time. So if anyone's actually following me on Goodreads, you'll see pretty steady updates. It's actually pretty normal for me to read multiple books at the same time. People think I'm odd in that sense, but, you know, I can actually keep up the different plots and the different characters, and for me, it's fun, so why not? Now, that's what I'm reading. What I'm actually watching these days, I'm really excited. As of October 30th, Grimm Season 4 has finally started on NBC. This is a fantastic show that kind of takes the world of Grimm's fairy tales and turns it on their head. The title character is, in this world, there are people called Grimms that hunt the monsters, the things that go bump in the night. Now, mind you, things like werewolves and creatures such as that look just like you and me. However, Grimms can see them for what they really look like. And normally humans can't see what they look like. So this guy is in Portland, Oregon. He's a cop, but he's also one of these Grimms. So he actually takes normal cases and cases that are involving creatures of the night. And there's a whole, throughout the series, there's this whole conspiracy and, themes that go across, besides just your typical monster of the week. So it's really interesting. If you haven't seen the first 3 seasons, I highly recommend it. Again, it's Grimm. It's on NBC. Comes on Friday nights. Check your local listings. Now, what am I listening to these days? Carrie Underwood, a country singer, has come up with her latest album. I want to say it's called Storytellers. If I got that wrong, I'll have to update that in the show notes. And the first single is called Cigarette Break. More recently, in the past couple of days, she and Brad Paisley co-hosted the Country Music Awards. She performed. It was a great performance. She actually is on tour currently for the album. I've liked her previous albums. She has a really powerful voice. This latest album has a little bit of rock built into it, so it's a harder edge album, but it's more of what you love and more. So if you love Carrie Underwood, you're not going to be disappointed. If you haven't checked her out before, thinking maybe, hey, she's a little too country, but she's modern country. So it's, less twang and more, guitars and hard edge. So definitely check it out. I highly recommend it. Carrie Underwood. That's it for what I am reading, watching, and listening to. And when I return, I will be talking about the songs that remind me of New York City. All right, I am back with the Multifarious Man podcast, and now the songs that I love from, growing up in New York, these are the songs that remind me of my city. The first song on the list is Around the Way Girl by LL Cool J. It's from his Mama Said Knock You Out album, which I think is his best album. And the song is just like it says. LL is rapping around about girls from around the way, from around the hood, from Queens. You're at the bus stop, you see them there. You see them with the bamboo earrings, at least 2 pair, Fendi bag, and a bad attitude. That's the essence of New York. Maybe it reminds you of your city too, but because LL truly represents New York City and a lot of his music, that's why this one is high up on my list. Next up also is a rap song. These 3 young men, well, they were young when they came out. In fact, they hit the scene around the same time as LL Cool J and Run DMC. The Beastie Boys. 3 white guys that could rap. They could play music, play rock. They can rap. And all of their rhymes were pretty much about girls and having fun. And the song that, for me, epitomizes New York has Brooklyn in the title. And this is called No Sleep Till Brooklyn. Hard-hitting, hard-driving drums, guitar riff, and it's about having a good time. I mean, it's not all party like Fight for Your Right to Party, but No Sleep Till Brooklyn, definitely New York song through and through. Next up on the list, it's a change of pace. Most people probably won't even think about New York when they think of this song. But for me, growing up listening to it, and then when they had a video out for it that actually had Mickey Mantle in it, this New Yorker, Paul Simon song, Me, You, and Julio, Down by the Schoolyard. And I remember growing up playing, handball, playing stickball, playing baseball on the street, playing baseball in the schoolyard. So for me, it reminded me of my childhood, and every time I hear it, it's a whimsical, fun song. Nice little acoustic guitar, and if you ever see the video, it's really enjoyable to see Mickey Mantle, who's a hero of Yankee legends, in the ballpark playing stickball with Paul Simon. Me, You, and Julio, Down by the Schoolyard. Next up, still going back to actual hip-hop, is Check the Rhyme, Tribe Called Quest. Back in the day on the Boulevard of Linden, used to kick routines, and the present was fitting. It was I, the abstract, and me, the 5-footer. So you got Q-Tip, you got Phife Dawg, and they were literally on a rooftop in Queens, Linden Boulevard, and people from around the way recognized where the video was shot, and it was perfect. This is New York, straight up. It was like a street party when they filmed this video, and remember when I first saw it and first heard the song, and still when I'm rocking Tribe Called Quest and I put this on, it reminds me of my city. It reminds me of where I grew up, specifically Queens, representing in the house, and that's why that song's on the list. Next two actually have the exact same title, and they couldn't be by 2 more different artists. It is New York State of Mind and by Billy Joel, which is a much older song, and New York State of Mind by Nas. Totally different songs, totally different vibe, but one reminds me of the inner city, the struggle, that grinding beat, Nas's smooth lyrics coming out hard hitting. The other, Billy Joel, of course, talking about riding a Greyhound on the Hudson River line. I'm in a New York State of mind. Of course, these songs is why I titled the episode New York State of Mind. Always. You can put them on any time. Feeling homesick, these 2 songs will definitely make me feel like I'm back at home. Next up is a song by George Benson, who's also known for singing The Greatest Love of All before Whitney Houston made it super famous. And it's called On Broadway. George Benson is a smooth R&B jazz guitarist. His voice is like an instrument. So when you hear him sing, it sounds like him playing his guitar. When he plays his guitar, it sounds like a voice. Perfect song for New York, and of course, famous boulevard in New York is Broadway. So, On Broadway is next on the list. Next up, I'm taking it way back in time. It's the only instrumental that's on this list, and it's called Take the A Train by Duke Ellington. If you've never heard it, you probably have heard it and didn't even realize it. And it's dun 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 dun. Sorry if that sounded horrible, but that's a famous song. Big band swing, Duke Ellington, Take the A Train. If you don't have it now, if you've never heard it, or if you've heard it and didn't realize what it was, definitely is a New York song all the way. Next up is a song that I guess you can kind of say it was a one-hit wonder, even though these two gentlemen, you can still hear about them today. One of them is currently or was recently on a reality TV show, and this is a song by Lord Tariq and Peter Guns. It was hot when it came out, called Deja Vu, Uptown Baby, in parentheses. And the wonderful thing about this song, it mentions all the boroughs in New York, Staten Island, Queens, Manhattan, the Bronx, and just talks about all the different things that each borough is known for, and how guys from each borough are a little bit different, but perfect song. Definitely still gets me hyped when I hear it. Definitely worth listening to, and it is called Deja Vu. Next on my list is Tom's Diner by Suzanne Vega. This song is sampled so many different times, but it's that dun 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 dun. It's a nonsensical song about someone talking about stuff going on at a diner, but for the club heads back in the day when this song would come on, DJs love this song because it has a nice beat. You can, pretty much mix it in with a lot of different songs. If you like to dance, you like to party, that's definitely a song to listen to. Next on the list is called Downtown by Petula Clark. Probably, it made me think about it recently because there's that song out now by, goodness, I'm drawing a blank, by Macklemore and Ryan Lewis called Downtown. Very similar, but it's kind of has that downtown, but it just talks about a lot of different things about the city. Yes, it's a silly song, but it reminds me of New York. Next, Summer in the City by the Lovin' Spoonful. You've probably heard this song a bunch of times. It just reminds me of how hot it can be in New York in the summertime in August. And it really makes it interesting is because in the movie Die Hard with a Vengeance, which was the third Die Hard movie with Bruce Willis and Samuel Jackson, takes place in New York. The opening of that movie, that's the song that's playing when that department store blows up. And it just makes me think of New York. There's really not more I can say to it. Definitely a New York song. Next up, the last two kind of go together. And kind of for the same reason, but they're such drastically different songs. But it doesn't matter. It is Empire State of Mind by Jay-Z and Alicia Keys, which came out 2009, which also happened to be the last time the Yankees won the World Series. It was on Jay-Z's Blueprint 3. Classic song. That classic beat, when you hear it, just makes you want to get up and dance. Alicia Keys, her voice just, makes it a perfect New York song, and it just strongly reminds me of the Yankees. In fact, they performed that song during one of the games when the Yankees went on to win the World Series. Last but not least on the list, and I'm sure you probably knew it was coming, it's by Old Blue Eyes, Frank Sinatra, New York, New York. And for me, the reason I love it is they play this at the end of every Yankee game when we win. So when you hear it, you know the game's over, you know we won, and that's why it makes it a New York song. And in fact, when I was in elementary school many years ago, my sister did a performance. She might have been in 4th grade, and it was the teacher, Miss Rampy. And I remember sitting and watching them practice, and it was kind of like a chorus line type of thing. And they performed to this song, New York, New York. So even when I was a little kid, it made me think of it, and that's why I love it the way I do. So when we come back, I will close out the show. Send me your emails at multifarious.man.podcast@gmail.com. Follow me at multifariousman on Twitter, and let me know what you think. Maybe I missed a few songs that you're thinking of, but I'd love to hear from you. And I will be right back to close out the show. Multifarious Man Podcast. I am back, and thank you again for listening to episode 8 of the Multifarious Man podcast. Again, I am your host, Jay Vincent, and I hope this one turns out okay, because like I said, I'm actually recording this one remotely out in the car, sitting in the parking lot. My daughter just came back in the car. I'm not going to ask her to speak and embarrass. Well, she laughed, but I don't want to make her feel embarrassed. Doesn't matter. So that's it for the show. All of my songs that remind me of New York. I hope you like the songs on the list. Maybe there was one on there that you didn't think of. Oh, matter of fact, there's one I almost forgot of. And in fact, this is a song that I actually hear in my head when I'm walking down the hallway at work or just walking around the house. And it's actually by the Bee Gees, Night Fever. So you remember the beginning when Tony, played by John Travolta, is walking down the street, and you can tell by the way I do my walk, I'm a ladies' man, no time to talk. Well, that driving beat, later on that song has probably been sampled many times, but that's definitely a New York song, even though it doesn't have New York in the title. The fact that story takes place in Brooklyn and it's definitely a New York movie, that song is definitely high on the list. So there you go, episode 8, New York State of Mind. And until next week, please leave me your comments. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And remember, like I always say, all right, I don't always say it, I'm still trying to work on my tagline. Don't be various when you can be multifarious. And I will catch you next time. For all the things I want to say that never been told. Dina Sinatra to Drake and Pharrell. When I'm listening to this week, you can never tell. Bogey and Bacall, even Meryl Streep. The devil wears Prada, even the big sleep. It doesn't matter where you stand, I'm the multifarious man.